Let's talk about Sleepers. I've been wanting to review this film for a long time. Before I get into spoilers, this film is incredible. What a standout cast. From start to finish, it holds your attention. The cinematography, the scenery, feel as if it's set in the 60s. Sort of like Stand By Me, transported back into that time period. This film is highly underrated. It doesn't really get spoke about anymore. I've not really seen it in the film community. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch and come back and watch the review. Now to get into some spoilers. I love this film not just because it's a star-studded cast, because it is a film about revenge. I do believe sometimes revenge is just letting things go and moving on. In this instance, if you've been traumatised, if trauma has changed the path and direction of your life, and of course revenge is like what you need to get over the trauma. This film is directed by Barry Levinstein, who's directed Rain Man, Good Morning Vietnam. If you've seen this film, you know it starts out with a young group of boys growing up in the 60s. The cinematography, the feel of this is transports you back to that time period. You get a sense of growing up in poverty in Hell's Kitchen. If you've ever grew up in an impoverished area, you know that your childhood still, it isn't that bad, even though you grow up not having luxuries in life, your parents aren't rich, you still have good times, especially if you have like a good group of friends. It's about boys, they're a close group of friends. They've not had the easiest upbringing, so they're playful. They like to do pranks, they're in church, they're all altar boys. And there's the priest who's played by Robert De Niro, Father Bobby, who I love because it kind of gives you a little bit of backstory about him. He grew up in the same neighbourhood, a lot of his childhood friends then went on to be gang members and they're in jail, and he's kind of had the same childhood as these boys, so he tries to keep them on the straight and narrow by having them do the mass services. He really does genuinely try and look out for these kids. Also, you see a bit of their home life as well. Shake's father beats his mother. Domestic violence is like a normal thing in Hell's Kitchen. Gang members, violence on the street. But what it does tell you is they're very tight-knit, and it tells you if a drug dealer from out of town kills somebody. For example, it says like a drug dealer gave a kid a bad pack of heroin, or was murdered for that, because it's a community, they look after their own. Shakes goes to King Benny, who's like a crime lord figure in the neighbourhood, for a job. He gets chased down by this gang, and then he says to King Benny, I need my friends to come and join me. Got his friends, it's like his little crew, and this is where they start to delve into the life of crime. They're hustling. As it goes on, it's a hot summer in New York. They decide, let's rob the hot dog stand. So it's basically Shake's turn. So usually this is what they do, and this is narrated perfectly from Jason Patric, who the older version of Shakes. He's telling it like, usually this is what happened. It usually goes to plan, but this time, I don't know why we done it. We just took it too far. They decide to steal the cart. Again, young boys pranks. Think this is harmless. Of course, it's not a good thing to do, but like, you wouldn't think it would lead to anything. Now this is like the butterfly effect, the turning point in which all these boys' lives changed. A small, tiny incidents ruined their lives. They end up going to juvie. They're all really nervous. They know they're going to get a long time because they're just seen as poor boys from Hell's Kitchen. The only one that speaks about them on glowing terms is Father Bobby, because he really is looking out for these boys and he doesn't want to see them go down the path that his friends previously did. The boys are then sent to juvie, and this is when you're introduced to the character Sean Noakes, who is played by Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon is a phenomenal actor, and this probably one of his best roles. I would personally say I feel like he disappears into this character. You fast forward, the boys have been there a little while. The narration done by Jason Patric paces it along nicely. The story is very nicely paced. He says this isn't a place for like nice young boys. Like a lot of the boys that are here, they've done really bad things. The boys don't really belong here. In instance, like it shows you that at the start, that the boys are quite nice, young, naive boys. They don't belong here, but they have made a mistake, and the boys are targeted by this bully. One of the boys, Mike, goes dinner in the air, and then they get into a location, and Sean Noakes comes over and he asks what's going on, and basically tells him, and then he makes him get on the floor and eat the food that is on the floor. Michael says to him like, I don't want the food, like I'm not hungry anymore. He hits him with a bat, and this is the start of this abuse. The guards aren't looking out for the boys, they are taking advantage of their position. Later on, Sean then has the 4 boys and he takes them what looks like down the cellar to like a secret place in the building. Other guards there that play a part: Ralph, Henry Addison, Adam Styler. They all play a part later on. You get to know their characters. So it takes them down to the basement and then they're essayed, which this scene is really well handled. The way it's portrayed, you're not shown a lot, if in, you're not really shown anything. But the music, the screams, and there's like background noise of the small things that you probably would hear if you were an essay victim. The light knocking or swinging, like you would be trying to focus on something else rather than the incident. It's really, really sad, this scene. You see it kind of fast forward, the boys are just going through hell, and this continues. Guards are doing things to them, SA, in general, just abuse, torture, solitary confinement. They try and get their own back by winning a football match against the guards. A black kid named Rizzo, black kid with a Spanish name. Michael sets this game up so they play the prison guards. It's basically them just winning the game and like beating them up at the same time. Just everything's been took from these boys: their manhood, childhood as well, and their dignity. This is like a win to them, a small win to them, but would keep them going. It results in Rizzo being murdered. This is a good scene because it plays a part in the future as well. Flash forward, and Shake's about to get released, and this is his last night in the juvie prison. John Noakes comes to his door and he says, "I just wanted to say goodbye." Everything about this scene is just makes you feel physically sick. You know what they're going to go through and endure. Fast forwards to the future, you just see 2 guys walking different time era. I'd say it's like the 80s now. Guys in leather jackets and they're very cold looking. They walk into a bar and it unfolds. They see Sean Noakes, not seen in 20 years, and having dinner in this bar. It's at this point you realise the 2 boys are Tommy Marcano and John Riley, and they're grown up now, part of a gang, and they're basically they're cold-blooded killers, ruthless now, and this is because of what's happened to them in the past. See him go to the toilet, John Riley comes back and he tells Tommy, the guy sitting over there, "Do you recognise him?" He says yes. Is that who I think it is? This is one of the best scenes in cinema for me. I love this. I love revenge when it is due. Great scene of anticipation building, because when they go over to see Sean Noakes, he doesn't know who they are. They don't look like these little boys. He's not seen them in 20 years. They remember this guy's face. It's burned into a part of their brain that they'll never forget what this man looks like. As you can see, they act out their revenge. They go to jail to await their trial, and now Michael's grown. He's a lawyer. He's a successful lawyer, and Shakes works for a newspaper. Go approaches Lorenzo. Shakes says to him, "I want to take this case to trial. Do you ever read the Count of Monte Cristo?" And he says, "Every night." And he's like, "Sweet cold revenge." King Benny hires this lawyer called Danny Snyder, who's an alcoholic. He says he's got a drug problem as well. He's a bit of a deadbeat lawyer. He doesn't take any cases to court anymore, but that's what they want. Michael's taking the case, the prosecutor. They basically need another lawyer. They wouldn't be credible. So Michael can write down information for him so that he actually wins the case. Almost like, well, he's a terrible lawyer and look at the evidence stacked that they didn't do this. Sort of a double bluff. Dustin Hoffman, obviously incredible actor. He steals all the courtroom scenes. He stumbles on his words, can't remember. Like, even though he has everything wrote down for him, they want to get revenge on all the other guards. The way it's plotted out, lots of revenge for the other guards. So guard Ralph, he takes a stand for Michael as a character witness. This is how Michael sets him up to be a character witness for Sean Noakes, but while he's doing that, he's wrote lines of questioning for Dustin Hoffman to ask Ralph, and he's under oath and he's a Christian man, so he doesn't lie, and they end up catching him. And the fact that he was essaying children, torturing them, treating them brutally. Testimony can't be took for the case, but at this point, the jury's heard the evidence. they now know in their head that Sean Noakes was not a noble guy. He wasn't a pillar of the community. He was a horrible person, and they know what he done. He essayed young boys, he tortured them, and he abused his power. It's a great little turn as well, really brilliantly pieced together. It's supposed to be based on a true story. Enzo Carcaterra is the author of the book, and it's took from that. A lot of people say that this didn't happen in real life. Dates don't match up. There's no files on record of this. I personally believe this happened because there's so much cover up. If you look at Jeffrey Epstein, you look at Jimmy Savile, like all these things that went on, and they were all covered up. Court records obviously have to be made public, but at the same time, if this juvenile facility was still up and running, that would be a disgrace on the government. Let me know what you guys think. I loved this film. I'd love to hear some of your comments and your thoughts on this. I know this is a long one, but I wanted to review this for so long because it is like one of my favourite films. Leave me a comment and thanks. Bye.